primary school in England has reportedly scrapped Easter celebrations and services in order to respect other religions and diversity. They've cancelled Easter. But get this, they're still celebrating Refugee Week instead.
What do people in Great Britain need to do? What do people in the United States need to do to avoid being cancelled or even just worse, completely ignored? Welcome to the Father Leo Show, where I am dishing out faith, culture, and commentary. And I hope I don't get in trouble about this episode, but I am going to talk about what craziness is happening in the UK in wanting to cancel Easter, as if somehow they don't recognize that Jesus rising from the dead is not only a universal part of our Catholic and Christian faith, but it is just a part of their own history. England is a Christian nation. It's not Catholic anymore, but it has deep roots in the Catholic Church. And so we're going to dive deep into this because it really has to do with the secularism that it leads to the Islamification of England, of the UK. And so this is going to be a challenging one, and I hope I don't get in trouble, because I know that UK officials are even monitoring social media of people even outside of their country and punishing them. It's kind of crazy. So let's just jump right into it. But before we do, please make sure you like, subscribe, share, and comment, and know that the only way we can do videos like this is if we have your support on patreon.com/The Father Leo Show. You can join us at any level, but if you offer some support to us monthly, then we actually give you access to some special content as well as some unique perks. So let's just jump right into it with the craziness of what's going on in secularized countries canceling religious Catholic holidays. In reality, we have to know that Christendom, the kingdoms of Christianity, are sadly, for the West part of the world, and primarily Europe, it is being dismantled from its roots. Even though it can't ever dismantle itself from its roots, it is being dismantled before our eyes by attacking the root problem. And the root problem is just a lackadaisical approach to Christianity, as well as a growing secularism that wants to replace religion with this social view of compassion. You know, I mean, you just have to be kind people. That's where I get it. You know, even though Christ wants us to be kind, it's actually not a theological virtue. It's a human virtue. So we have to know that there are people who just prefer to rest on Christian anthropology. And that is basically a term of an academic kind of way to basically describe we have to act like Christ, but don't believe he's God. That is bad news, because basically then you're going to have the ability to interpret whatever you want about Christ's activity as somehow being permissive to sin. We hear that all the time when people say Jesus didn't condemn the sinner, but then we know that he says in the next line, but go and sin no more, because they only want to rely on his humanity and how he treated people on a human level. But they forget that he is also God, or they just don't want to admit that he's God, and therefore they can make any excuse whatsoever to do what they want, because then they'll say, because Jesus didn't judge them. Oh, yes, he did. He was definitely harsh in judgment of religious people, which is why we, as good, authentic Catholic faithful people, not only should we follow the letter of the law, we also have to follow the spirit of the law, which makes us more flexible, not rigid. And when we're rigid, it creates an unnecessary tension, so people automatically reject the Catholic Church's teaching or Christ's teaching outright because they don't like our humanity. So it's a real tension between the divinity of our Catholic teaching and its humanity. But in this case, it is shocking. It is shocking that there is a teacher, a head teacher in a particular school. I'm going to read to you her comments. It was posted on X by probably one of the parents who was probably concerned and, yeah, possibly even ticked off. It says this: "Dear parents and carers, as we approach the spring season, I would like to inform you about an important update regarding our school's traditional Easter celebration. After carefully considering and discussing with our school community, we have decided not to hold the Easter bonnet parade or the Easter service this year. This decision has been made in a spirit of inclusivity and respect for diverse religious beliefs represented within our school community." And let me just insert here. Let's just say it's Muslims. It's Islamists who are probably fighting back on this. Anyway, but they will air on the BBC the prayers of the Eid celebration for the Islamic religion. Making no sense to me whatsoever. Let's continue. "Our school is committed to fostering an environment where every child feels valued and respected, regardless of their religious background." Well, if that's the case, then why are you dismissing the most central tenet celebration of the Christians? Doesn't seem very respectful or inclusive to me. But I digress. Let's go back to this ridiculous, most passive-aggressive, insulting letter that I've ever read from any institution. "By not holding specific religious celebrations, we aim to create a more inclusive atmosphere that honors and respects the beliefs of all our children and their families." Hogwash. Pure, absolute, passive-aggressive idiocy and hogwash. Let me continue. "We understand that this change may be disappointing for some, especially those who have cherished these traditions over the years." Okay, one, it's not cherishing the traditions, it's cherishing the faith. "However, we believe that this decision aligns with our values of inclusivity and respect for diversity." I mean, those words, inclusivity and diversity, are the most hypocritical terms, in my opinion. They are used as weapons against Christians, who, by the way, are the most inclusive religion ever. I do not see Islam being very inclusive as a religion. Not at all. Do not kid yourself. The Islamic religion is all about proselytizing, making us convert to Islam, where if we don't, we will either be killed or we have to pay what they call a jizya, a tax, and we will be second-class citizens. In the Catholic Church, where Catholic Christendom reigned, even in England, we did welcome people. Now, even in their own Catholic, formerly Catholic, but now Christian culture, Christians aren't being welcomed. So, let's continue. "We are exploring alternative ways to celebrate the season in future years that will be inclusive of all children and reflect the rich cultural diversity of our community." Honestly, this is just the most redundant and repugnant letter I've ever heard. And if you as Christians are not offended by this, then you are part of the problem. All right. "One of the ways we'll be celebrating inclusivity is by taking part in a refugee week, which occurs in June." So now they're literally just making up holidays. But I thought that June was dedicated to Pride Month. Oh my gosh, what are we going to do? It's unbelievable. "As well as the beginning our journey to become an accredited school of sanctuary." Again, using Christian terms. Sanctuarium literally means an area or space reserved for the holy. Sanctus arium. Watch this space. In the meantime, like, what does that even mean? Watch this space! Exclamation point. "In the meantime, we look forward to seeing many of you at the music festival in a couple weeks." I bet you they will have like the most ridiculous music, modern, and they will not have any Christian religious music whatsoever. We appreciate your understanding and support as we make this transition. If you have any questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to contact the school office. Thank you for your continued support. Kind regards, Miss Mander, head teacher. I will say that Miss Mander is a terrible writer, but that comes with bad logic and very much a distorted sense of consciousness. I don't know Miss Mander. Clearly, I don't know her. And I'm not judging her as a person. I am judging her actions, her critical thinking skills, and her ability to communicate. It is not only redundant, but it was repugnant to the sensibility of the people who go to that school who are Christians. In her desire to be, and we've heard this so much, inclusive, and to represent the diversities. This is literally DEI woke nonsense at its absolute worst. Especially knowing that as Christians, we are the most inclusive. And this probably isn't a Christian school. So they can technically do what they want. So from a faith perspective, I'm going to tell parents now, either send your children to a Catholic school or homeschool them immediately. Get your children out of public schools unless it's a good public school, and there aren't many of them. I am grateful to God we're going to be getting rid of the Department of Education so that states can actually be in charge of their own money and federal funding, and not simply supporting bureaucrats, but looking at the culture of the people and giving education a chance to, again, get kids to be more successful. And by the way, success doesn't rest simply on inclusivity and diversity. It also requires unity, critical thinking, knowledge of history and tradition, and the ability to actually stand on principles like what the Catholic Church offers. So, having said all that, you can tell I'm kind of hot under the collar with regards to this kind of crazy nonsense. Let's kind of take a look, because this actually gives me a little encouragement of how culture is responding to all of this. And then in my commentary, let's figure out what we can do to make sure that Easter never gets swept under the rug or pushed aside in the name of diversity and inclusivity. Culture, thankfully, in the UK is waking up. They are realizing that the wokeness of these kind of liberal movements in trying to literally sweep Christianity under the rug or push it aside or eliminate it altogether is getting people to see that if they don't stand up for Christianity, England will become a Muslim nation. It's just, its trajectory is headed towards that. So I'm just grateful that there are movements to kind of remind people of this happening. So, for example, there was a post on X, Disciples of Christ, Christ Saves UK. It says, Easter will not be canceled. Norwood Primary and Preschool's anti-Christian head teacher, Stephanie Mander, has canceled the school's Easter service and Easter celebrations out of respect and diversity. This is completely unacceptable. We will be protesting outside the school to show Mander that we will not tolerate any attacks on Christianity. And here's the problem. Mander, the teacher, wasn't technically actually attacking Christianity. There was no attack. It was just an ignoring of it. And that's the problem. Because when you're fighting someone who's passive aggressive, it's such a form of narcissism. I'm sure that Miss Mander has a smile on her face, says, no, we're including everybody. We just don't want anyone to feel excluded. So we're not attacking anyone. This is where you have to stand up and say, then fine, we're going to pull our kids out. Just pull them out. Because if you pull them out, then guess what you're going to be able to do? show that they are not keeping their students. And you have to talk about this. Don't respond to passive aggressive people like Miss Mander in a passive aggressive way. You have to not be aggressive either. You just have to come with facts. You have to be incredibly aware of, I'm jumping ahead of myself. Let me just simply say that there are actually protests happening now. And I'm grateful that this is happening, because we see that there are actually students who are actually, for example, on Instagram, there was someone who posted, let's see, this Catholic Arena posted these students who are saying, they've got these signs, they've got posters and banners, they have the Easter Bunny out there, of course, and they say the one true faith, and say Britain is a Catholic country. Head teacher Stephanie Mander wants to cancel Easter. Let's cancel her. That is an appropriate response. Completely, 100% appropriate. It's the same way as what the pro-life movement did in canceling Roe versus Wade. We got out there and we just basically said, this is what the courts did. It was wrong. It's now time for us to stand up and speak out. And they need to be non-stop about it. You know, you even see things like this. On Turning Point USA, there's an image of this guy, and I'm just going to simply play his video.
Let's go and take a look in Morrison's and see how many Easter eggs have got the word Easter written on them. As we walk in, not a very good start. No, not a single mention of Easter. Well done, Ferrero Rocher. Easter egg. Buy a Ferrero Rocher egg. Everything else, nothing at all. So from that whole section, literally just one Easter egg has got Easter on it. So well done, Ferrero Rocher.
So that's just a man who was going through the grocery store trying to find something that wants to say the word Easter, and even just the word Easter, where it comes from. Well, it comes obviously with the word east because it has the sun. That's where the sun rises from the east and sets on the west. And so when we take a look at this, even just the word scares people, scares liberal, woke people, and it almost offends them. Now, Ferrero Rocher is a Catholic candy company. It's a Catholic chocolatier company. So they're not going to bow down to the craziness of Miss Mander or whatever her name is here. And it's really just quite frustrating. And gratefully also, the news is coming out with more, including from, I would just assume would be one of the news outlets in the UK. Check out what this guy has to say.
I've been a journalist for 15 years and have been lucky enough to travel the world reporting on all sorts of stories. But I don't think I've ever been left quite as gobsmacked about a story as I have today. And it takes me a lot to get rattled. A primary school in England has reportedly scrapped Easter celebrations and services in order to respect other religions and diversity. They've cancelled Easter. But get this, they're still celebrating Refugee Week instead. So what do we know about the school? Its latest Ofsted report said the quality of education at Norwood Primary was judged as needing improvement. Inspectors wrote, the school's curriculum is currently underdeveloped. While the school is ambitious for pupils' success, some pupils do not achieve high enough. It went on, too many pupils do not develop into fluent readers and writers. The school, though, was judged as good when it came to behaviour and attitudes, personal development of children, leadership and early years provision. Tonight, I took a look at the Norwood website. The school says it promotes so-called British values, including democracy, the rule of law, individual liberty, mutual respect and tolerance of different faiths and beliefs. I'll repeat that, tolerance of different faiths and beliefs. But I question whether its tolerance of faith extends to Christianity. Because on the website, if you dig a bit deeper, under the Respect of Faiths and Beliefs page, it says, throughout the school year, important celebrations in the lives of our children and school community are marked and celebrated together. These include Eid, Diwali, Christmas and Easter. But it appears Easter's been cancelled, doesn't it? Further down the page, as you can see here on your screen, there are multiple PDF documents about previous assemblies held at the school. Let's go through them, shall we? At the top, we have Year of the Dog, celebrating Chinese New Year. Then the Hindu festival of Holi, a healthy eating and well-being assembly just beneath that. One for Islam's Ramadan, one for the royal wedding, another Islamic celebration with Eid. Just below that, then giving to charity. There's a China visit, another Hindu festival of Diwali, and finally at the bottom there, the Jewish festival of Hanukkah. I can't see Easter anywhere. Where is Lent? Where is Christmas? Now, I've approached the school tonight and we've asked them for comment, and we're still awaiting their response. They'd argue, of course, as I've covered, that this has been done to support inclusion and diversity, but I suggest it seems every faith is tolerated and included, apart from the very faith this country was built on. And I'll be honest, relaying this story to you tonight sparks a range of emotions inside me. There is some anger, there's shock, there's disbelief, but ultimately for me, it's a feeling of sadness. We saw over Christmas in London how previously loved Christmas lights in the main shopping streets, such as Oxford Street, Regent Street, were renamed Winter Wonder Lights and other such nonsense. And I separately reported from a Winter Wonder Market, where traders told me they weren't allowed to say the word Christmas. And I didn't hear a peep from the Church of England about the Shrove Tuesday this year. Instead, they did find time, however, to tweet about net zero. I actually feel a sense of grief at what's happening to our country's identity, and do often wonder what will be left for my children to recognise when they come to inherit the land I grew up in.
Okay, there you have it. The first part of the broadcast, he kind of just reiterated what I read, the letter itself, but then he digs a little deeper into the school website. It's a very mediocre school at best, because what they're just doing is they're relying on anthropological development, but not really formation. They're teaching people how to be kind, which basically means, some character development. Hey, I'm all about that. But character development requires us to have as a model the most important character, and that's obviously Christ in our life. And digging deep, you see that there are no Christian celebrations listed on the school's website. And his feelings is why I want to now make my comment. What do people in Great Britain need to do? What do people in the United States need to do? What do people in former Christian stronghold nations, what do we need to do to avoid being canceled, or even just worse, completely ignored? I'm going to feed off of this reporter from GBN News. Seems like a very cultured British man. Someone who I would think of when I think of the United Kingdom. Polished, articulate, well-mannered, educated. And the range of emotions that he finally came up with was sadness. And that is a very good way to describe it. But that sadness needs to have some motivation. And so here is what I'm going to offer to people in America, people in the Philippines, people in South America, people in Europe, anywhere that was originally Christian, particularly Catholic. Number one, get back to church. Just go to church. Don't make religion a thing of a feeling and something you think about when it's challenged. You gotta get yourself back to church and bring your family. 2, make sure that you are being educated in the Catholic Church's teachings, from apologetics to moral positions, because if you are not aware, then people are going to attack you and you're going to feel stupid. And when you feel stupid, you're going to be discouraged. And when you're discouraged, you're not going to want to pursue trying to defend the Catholic Church. Because once you're educated, you can engage in a technique of communication called apologetics. Apologetics doesn't mean that we're sorry for what we believe. It comes from the words apo, to reveal, logos, word or logic. You're revealing the logic of the Catholic Church. So number 1, practice your faith by going to church. 2, learn the faith so that you can exercise apologetics. 3, start organizing your communities, because we have to find strength in numbers. As the Islamic nation literally tells the Muslim people to make a lot of babies and then just take over cities. I mean, there was a report that every mayor in the major London, in major cities are Muslim. because they're mobilized. I mean, I take a look at Ilhan Omar, who is a terrible, disgraceful example of the people of Somalia. Because, I mean, she left that country to come to America, and she's now in a predominantly Somalis community in Minneapolis, St. Paul. And so they keep electing her because they find strength in numbers. People find strength in numbers. Just mobilize. Come together. I know British people they're cordial and they're polite, but they're not necessarily communal people. They like small groups. Well, guess what? You're going to have to mobilize and get together. And we're seeing instances of that. And then fourth, when you're mobilized, then you can actually start taking it to the referendum, starting to vote on these things. And it's not me encouraging the Christian faith to get involved in politics, but if you don't get involved in politics, then your Christian values are not going to be represented. That is all there is to it. And then the fifth thing that I'm just going to recommend for all Catholics, and I tell this myself, just get prepared for the attacks. Don't be wimps. Don't complain. Don't see yourself as a victim. Just see yourself as a target. Because once you actually start speaking out, I look at Tony Robbins, for example. That man has been just devastated just because he's speaking out against the attacks that his identity as a UK citizen and also as a Christian, it's just being avoided. I mean, you're being literally locked out of your own community. So just get ready for the attacks. So again, just as far as summarizing is concerned, start practicing your faith, start learning your faith, start mobilizing your communities together, take it to the ballot box, and get ready for the attack. And I'm not one of these people who thinks that the Crusades need to come back, but I think the attitude of the Crusades need to come back, and I think that we can continue a Catholic crusade without being violent, because we can appeal to sensible people who are Muslim. And there are a lot of them. There are a lot of sensible Muslim people, including Muslims who don't mind putting up Christmas trees. They love it. In fact, they say for their kids, I like it. It's not a bad thing. Put up your Christmas tree. Muslims have said that. Muslims have celebrated Easter egg hunts as well. It's the liberal, primarily white, woke women who are putting out nonsense like this. So guess what? We need to get parents more involved in the schools as well. This just opens up a whole can of worms, but I'm just here to tell you, they tried to cancel Easter by killing Jesus and pretending that his body was stolen. But you know what? The power of Christ compels us. That's actually kind of a phrase that's used in exorcisms, because I think it's to some degree what we are experiencing as Christians is from the evil one. And so we have to know that the power of Christ compels us, and the power of Christ will always overcome darkness and even conquer the greatest enemy of life itself, which is death. Don't be afraid to die for Christ, but don't be afraid to live for Christ. That's how we avoid getting Easter from getting canceled. Leave your comments. Let me know what your thoughts are. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share, as well as the engagement helping us. And please engage us on Patreon so that we can continue to highlight some of the craziness happening in the world, but more importantly, have the staff and the team to put out information for you that will hopefully help you with a pastoral, balanced Catholic response. Thank you for listening. God bless you. Happy Easter. Happy blessed, glorious Easter. He is risen. He is Lord. He will help us get through this nonsense as long as we continue to stay hungry for God.